I get more begs for money from congressmen and senators that live 2,000 miles away from me. And I don't mean they live in D.C. and they represent us here. I mean they live in Illinois and they represent Illinois.
Yeah.
Fundraising has become a national effort. So these issues are always going to be funded by the people that can scare enough people wherever they may be situated to send money, even though they're targeted here at this state.
Yeah.
Right. And let me just finish on this slide. I got pulled in, and I did not know all the facts. And even applying libertarian principles, I didn't put enough homework into this thing. I kind of had a knee-jerk reaction to this proposition in the sense that I reverted probably to some of my old conservative roots, which said it looked like the gay community was seeking special rights. And I voted in that sense, is that I thought, oh, there's going to be more money pulled out, and somehow money's going to come out of my pocket. And I wasn't even considering the tolerance issues or whether kids would be exposed to gay lifestyle or whatever. I was thinking pocketbook and special rights kind of as a knee-jerk, and I didn't do enough. And so without any time left, I voted yes on it. And maybe that could be a little food for thought, in that it needs to be, because they're on the conservative side. I did hear some arguments that were similar to the arguments made against some of the campaigns, the civil rights campaigns, which I thought were already won, essentially. You know, where and then it had gone over to the other side, where minorities had then started to gain special rights for different things. And I categorized it mentally. I kind of put that construct, that model, on top of the situation where the gay rights was doing. But upon further examination, I really now believe that the gay rights movement is still in the early stages of the civil rights, where there is not equality under the law, as opposed to other groups.
Well, it's
culpa. I didn't.
One thing that's interesting to note here is that the gay community is not monolithic. There are conservatives, libertarians, and liberals within the gay community, just like in the black community. So it's going to take quite a while for them to come to a consensus. And even then, they won't. The majority within that community will become the voice of that community, right or wrong. It's incumbent upon other groups, such as this, to advocate for the position not prevailed upon, not the majority position, the minority position in essence, because you have to keep that debate alive so that people can make a decision from logic and facts and the truth, and not from dogma, wherever it comes from, because the gay community has an agenda. They probably have multiple agendas. Some are for this, some are against it. It's interesting you brought up this carved-out exception. Section 7.5 of Article 1 of the California Constitution. Very simple, one sentence. Only marriage between a man and a woman is valid or recognized in California. That does not carve out or attempt to stop an exception for gay marriage. On the contrary, it actually carves out an exception protecting what the majority got, which was, and however you want to phrase it, traditional marriage, heterosexual marriage, doesn't matter. That's the exception that was carved out. And it, in my mind, violates equal protection. Because now you are denying to one segment of the population the equal protection of the law. In this country, we are portable. We can move freely. It is a constitutional right. Your driver's license is accepted, your California driver's license is accepted in all 50 states. That's because we need to have this uniformity, this standardization. Excuse me. It's the same way with taxation issues, which goes to the economics of it, and marriage. That your marriage license from one state should be honored as a binding and legal document by other states. And now you've got many states, such as California with the Prop 8 decision, that have said, no, we're no longer going to recognize other states' official documents. So now we literally are treating them disequally. and not affording them the protection of not only our laws, but of their laws and federal laws.
Yeah, that seems to be the argument, what the attorneys have brought up against Prop 8, that they're mounting the challenge. Let's
a personal observation. For about the last 30 years, it's been my pleasure when people have complained to me about the gay community demanding special rights. I said, look, we already have special laws for us. They criminalize our behavior. And they look at me and they say, ooh, well, all we want to do is be judged by the same laws that judge you. We've already got special legislation against us.
Right. I actually didn't have time to put up some of that history, but certainly there have been homosexual practices that have been criminalized in many states, and I think many of those are still on the books. If I'm not mistaken, they are. Can we wait till Q&A? Okay, we'll be there soon. I'm going to try to go through this quick, because this essentially echoes what you just said, Michael. Ted Olson and David Boies, representing the plaintiffs, say that in the brief filed recently that they plan to seek documents relating Prop 8's genesis, drafting strategy, objectives, advertising, campaign literature, and other communications with each other and donors and supporters, the goal to prove that no compelling or rational basis existed to pass Prop 8, and I didn't put the rest of it on constitutional basis. Essentially, all the arguments that that we've been talking about, and I showed you from the Mormon community, essentially they're going to bring those and turn them back against them and say that these arguments are not legal, constitutionally based arguments, and that's what they're going to use to, and also on precedent that marriage has been declared as a fundamental right by some very famous Supreme Court justices.
Well, what Olson and Boyce are getting at here with the compelling and rational basis is the standard of review that they will get the Supreme Court, be it California or the U.S. Supreme Court, to use as their authority to even hear the case. It doesn't actually go to the case directly, but it allows them the rule book under which to view the case. Because there are differing standards, because not all rights are equal.
So you might not even get a hearing if you don't construct this kind of preliminary background or logic.
Very true. From my own background, right now you've got First Amendment issues which are held at the highest standard. For the government to intrude on First Amendment issues takes a very high standard of review. There are many on the other side of Second Amendment issues that are anti-gun rights, anti-shooting rights, that say, no, this isn't really a fundamental right. Anybody can change the laws. It doesn't really matter. Even though it's still in the same Bill of Rights. All of these in the first 10 amendments should be held up to be more or less equal. They were so important at the founding that the founders knew they could not get the Constitution ratified without a Bill of Rights. They had to add it on just to get it through the states. Because if you look at many state constitutions, including California's, California holds most of the First Amendment rights in even a stronger position than the federal Constitution does.
Fascinating. Let's jump to the next one. It's going to be more less esoteric for us non-legal heads. So
I hear you on that.
Here we go. Third question. So we talked about, would it imply any special rights, benefits, economic or otherwise? Would same-sex marriage recognition imply that? I think we've already partially answered that. No, it's not going to confer more special rights. So if that answer is no, then a new same-sex marriage recognition bill could then win, full libertarian and non-homophobic Republican support. In other words, moderate Republicans, more tolerant Republicans.
Right.
So I may be, going too far out on the branch here, but from my research,